I do like how
How are they
they
going?
nail your phone comes up.
Are they still laughing?
Yeah, just silence.
Oh, really? Yes.
The problem is my mortgage company called,
Yeah, my
because I'm
sister,
trying to get put on the,
She got
the
into the
buy
whole
something
thing.
payment to pay my second area. And it came up as the Spanish, I said, what's that?
I called
Hence.
Josh's cell phone from my desk once, and our number.
Yeah, I had a resident come back and goes, I only picked it up because you called me right back.
But I think it's so
more
cool to
important.
be able to do it.
It's really cool. I was trying to do it for summer. And clocks really are
Yeah.
Well, the ones, I mean, we have so many places for my chickens to hide in the yard and they're so organized.
Oh, good.
And we have lots of wildlife. So we have the hospital. And one day it was just sitting on the fence right next to the chickens and not even, I think it gave it really good.
Yeah, she had a trampoline and during the evening, or the late afternoon when the hawks were starting to that she would put them underneath, and then that way they'd be safe.
Yeah.
But also sometimes when the kids didn't put them under properly, and that's when she was typically crying.
I don't let my kids have any.
I mean, your kids are much younger than mine than they were when they were old enough to know that they need to put the chickens under the tarp.
Oh man, no, that's sad. It's really sad.
But do the eggs taste good?
Oh my gosh.
You can definitely tell the difference, right?
Yeah, we went out to brunch like a week ago, and I got eggs.
Gina, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Congrats. Your own.
Hey,
Yes.
Gina.
Yeah.
So what it's like.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
That'd be great.
You get a ton? You get a ton?
Oh yeah, we get probably 7 or 8 a day.
Wow, jeez, that's a lot of eggs.
And we cannot go through them, so we're doing a lot of them.
You haven't had initial problems or anything?
Not really. I mean, we have them. They're just on the oven, and that was my main concern because they do free range in my backyard. But so far, we've been pretty good about it.
My neighbor was watching our neighbor's chickens,
Yes.
and they were on vacation. They all got killed.
Oh,
And
no.
she's like, what do I do? I'm like,
You need someone to know what you're doing and also to be around.
I know my new ones. You never know. I was like a dog or a cat.
You guys keeping busy over here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too busy?
No. We're getting through.
Yeah.
Doing our thing.
She's
How about you?
It's been crazy. It's been so busy lately. Past 2 months have just been nonstop.
That's good.
Yeah.
Means Luke can buy a new coat.
Then he'd sail away. Don't give him a boat. We don't need him to leave, Bill.
Good evening.
I'm doing good.
Good, good.
My email says you come by.
Oh, you're here for John.
Yeah.
Got the, did they tell you?
What's that?
Got the.
Yeah, right. I saw the approval. If it got denied, I'm leaving.
Well, it's not been approved yet.
It's not my problem anymore. I'm out of here.
John will be at the courthouse first thing tomorrow, following the appeal.
John won't be at the courthouse. I'll be at the courthouse.
Where they have all of the delegates.
Yeah, John has been ping-ponging all over the place recently. I've been picking up decisions all over the place.
It's nice when you're popular.
I know, right? It's nice when you get the easy task once in a while, too. Hey, go get that.
Yeah.
You can give me that all day.
Yeah. They're not all that simple, unfortunately.
Nah.
George is running.
Just look at Stanberry. Right, Rich?
Second submission.
Yep.
How's the review coming? I heard you were like eyeballs deep in it the other
Yeah,
day.
it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, maybe by the end of the week or early next week.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
That project has so many little facets to it.
But she was definitely.
I wish they would have bought everything from Google.
What's that?
I wish they would have bought everything from Google.
Oh, yeah. I think they tried. It just unfortunately didn't work out, so that was their intention as well.
Yeah.
There were some difficulties with that. I don't think it was just that. I mean, that's always a factor.
I don't think she's ever gonna be online. I don't think she's ready for a showtime. So we're listening for those in the class. Did you get
Joe? Good area. Did you have a chance to talk to Tom? Okay. I'm so good.
No, sure, thank you. Oh, good, thank you.
Okay, I think it's 7 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ashley Gagne. I'm sitting in for Mr. Sean Walsh tonight. He's on vacation, so please bear with me. I will get us through this meeting, I promise. We will start off, if you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I just want to start with the chair's announcement that this meeting may be recorded by third parties, so just be aware. We're also live streaming or recording for YouTube as well. So we're going to start tonight's meeting with item number 3. It's the presentation of the annual report by the Westchester Public Library.
Thank you very much. I'm Victoria Dow. I'm the director of the Westchester Public Library, and Helen Westling unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening. And thank you very much for your continued support. It means a lot in terms of the services that we can provide to the community, to West Goshen residents who continue to make up about 15 to 20% of our business annually. Right after the borough. And I will say that last year, as it was for everybody, was an interesting year. I am very proud of the fact that we managed to have story times on Facebook Live by the 15th of March. We had a wonderful story time person who unfortunately has gone on to a full-time job with the school district, but she was absolutely fabulous, and we were able to do story times both on Facebook and later on Zoom, and we did all of our children's programming that way, and probably will continue for a little bit until children can be vaccinated. We're, being somewhat conservative. And we also, of course, really put a lot of money into ebooks last year because the demand absolutely soared. The difference between the checkouts in, say, February 2020 to May, the difference was somewhere in the range of 70 or 80% higher. And unfortunately, ebooks cost us a lot more. We don't actually own them ever, we lease them. And most publishers now have a leasing model where they say, well, you can have it for this period of time, and then if you need it again, you have to renew the lease. And a title right now, often for 24 months, costs us $60. Now for $60 in print books, with the discount that we receive from our jobber, I can get 3 to 4 titles in print. So you can see the difference. Has an effect. We do the best that we can. with the funds that we have, do a lot of fundraising, obviously, and are very appreciative and grateful to what our municipalities in our service area provide. And thank you very much for that. And we've also been able to help a lot of people with connectivity lately. We had at least one gentleman who needed to complete a telehealth conference with his physician and had no connectivity at home, had no device that he could do that on, asked if we could help him out, and we set him up with one of our computers in our meeting room, and he was able to complete that. So I think we've done the best that we could, pivoted, and are now looking forward to whatever the new world is. So if you have any questions, I will say for anybody who's interested, our 2020 annual report is on our website, which is new. It was redone last year, so it's much easier to navigate, and our financials are there as well. If anybody has any questions, be happy to answer them.
Does anybody from the board have any questions? Does anybody from the public have any questions? Margie?
Hi. Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for the service you provide. I'm just curious, what is the borough's annual contribution?
It's $105,000 in cash, and they pay for the maintenance and the utilities of the building.
Okay, and then I know in our county tax bill, there is a millage specifically for library.
Okay, so there are two things going on with county funding, okay? What we all see on our real estate bills from the county, that millage goes to fund the Chester County Library and its branch, the Hankin Library, because they are a department of county government. And believe me when I say that I couldn't do what I do without Chester County Library. So it's really vital that that library is there with all of the services and resources that they have. The commissioners have then elected to allocate a pot of money to the member libraries in the library system, and that's the other 16 libraries, Westchester being one of them. And that's apportioned by, what our circulation is, population that we serve. It's a formula, and that's divvied up that way. So there are two different pots of money there.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand the
I know, it's a little confusing, yes, but that millage goes specifically for Chester County Library and the Hankin Library.
Okay, and then the separate pot from the commissioners is still
Correct.
tax money from residents, or is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, the county's income is pretty much all tax dollars, but yes.
And then how was the Borough Library able to receive funding from CARES Act or any of the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all together in federal funding from a number of different sources. Last year we got just over $100,000. And that, that paid for, we did get a payroll protection plan loan, which made a big difference in tiding us over in that first period there from, say, April, May, through to about September. And we also received some state funds, some county funding, all CARES Act from those different streams, and then also from the Chester County Community Foundation, which had funds available. We received a grant from them as well.
Great. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes?
Go ahead, Doug.
Hi, Doug West Goshen. Are you forecasting your funding to be less for next year than this year or last year?
Probably about the same. Yeah. We're always very active with our fundraising. That's where we have, some room.
Okay.
But we did just finish our budget last night. It was approved. And it's pretty much the same.
It's the same as this year?
As this year, yes.
Okay, if there's no other questions,
Thank you very
concludes your
much.
presentation. Thank you
And
so much.
appreciate the questions too.
Good, we appreciate the library and all the work that you do. All right, moving on to item number 4. It's the discussion and possible approval for a final subdivision plan for a 589 lot residential subdivision at Woodlands of Greystone. And Kristen, do you want to? Rick?
Okay, this is the plan for phase 3 of the Woodlands to Greystone project. It involves a relatively small part of the project, 28 residents right there in white. So it is a small part of the project. In addition to reviewing the lots for phase 3, we also took the opportunity to make some modifications to some of the features that had been changed or added from the original land development plan, such as fencing, safety fencing for the dams, some bollards for restricting access to some of the trails, gates for the emergency access points in the North Hills, and things of that nature. So we took that opportunity to modify the plans that will be recorded to accurately show those items. So that really is the gist of the project. There's no change to stormwater, no change to traffic, no change to roadways or anything like that. It's just the approval of these 28 lots and the miscellaneous items that I just mentioned.
And the applicant did submit, as they typically do, financial security agreement, land development agreement, and a bond to cover the estimated cost of the public and quasi-public improvements. That is a number that the developer submits to Rick, and Rick reviews and approves, and then the legal agreements or form agreements that I review the executed versions to make sure that there are forms. And then I do review the bond form. So we have those in our possession. They were dropped off to Bill, I think. So one other thing that's sort of a carryover, if you recall, I believe it was in May, there was some modifications to timing of certain conditions with respect to the conditional use of the land development. And one of those was that the applicant is required to obtain a letter of map revision from FEMA. So basically, and Rick gave me a lesson today, I had learned this once before, but he reminded me what it is. But when FEMA interpolates their maps, sometimes they're not studied areas. And so when this project was being done, the engineers specifically studied and did hydraulic analysis or whatever type of testing they do to be able to prove to you that certain areas are not in floodplain. So they already have what's called a CLOM, or conditional letter of map revision. They can't get the final letter of map revision. So basically it's changing the FEMA maps in a certain specific portion of the site. They can't get the final approval until all the development is completed. And what the board agreed to do was to take the timing of that can be after they're done construction. We wanted to make sure that we have some security in place separate apart from the performance security to make sure that loan mark gets submitted and approved by FEMA. So Mr. Calgreco prepared an escrow agreement that is separate apart from performance guarantees. It's specifically to the obligation of the developer to get the loan mark. Rick and I looked at it and spoke with them today. They are going to be obligated to submit that application prior to the issuance of the last building permit, or upon issuance of the last building permit, the very last dwelling. And Ray, maybe you can speak to, is it a 6-month time frame to get that from FEMA?
Hard to say how long FEMA's going to do it, and I think that was what Rick's concern was, is let's get it submitted. FEMA requires that it be submitted 6 months after the last home is built. Rick's point was, why wait so long? Submit it at the last home. So that's not a problem. We'll agree to do that. By that point in time, we know what the impervious surface on the site is going to be. That's what they're looking for, really. It's not going to change much in the last 10 homes, let's say. And we can submit that and get it to them. I can't guarantee when they're going to release it, but it's out of my hands at that point.
Right, and the township is involved in that process. The township has to sign off on those applications and forms. The Horizon Engineering, who works with the developer, submitted an estimate of the cost to submit all that paperwork and get the loan mark. And that estimate has been approved by Rick, and they're willing to post escrow for that with this specific security agreement. So that's, again, that was something that in the modification that you approved in May, that was supposed to be done, in tandem with you approving and releasing the plans for phase 3. So we want to make sure that we, came back to that issue, had it in front of you to say that, they are honoring that obligation, those agreements, and that security will be provided to you when these plans are being released.
Okay.
When we did meet back in May, I believe it was, with the developer and all, there were like, I don't recall, saying like 22 different items that the township had come up with that felt that things were not happening in a timely fashion. Where are we at with that list and the timeline that was developed as a result of all that?
I can speak to that, John, or Rick and Ray can certainly chime in as well. I think I'm not aware of anything being out of sync from that schedule that was
Sorry,
submitted.
could you come up and speak in the mic? Speak to me. That's okay, just one moment.
Yeah, I can speak to that, that's better. I'm not aware of anything being wildly out of sync with that schedule. There have been some, supply delays with materials. We just got the emergency access gate installed probably this month. We thought that would have been installed earlier, but you can't install what they can't deliver. So we're experiencing the same supply delays that everybody else is. But by and large, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, everything seems to be on schedule.
By and large, got a few little issues that are a little bit behind, but nothing major at this point.
Yeah, we hope to catch up. Nothing's perfect, but I guess one of the infiltration basins still has to be worked out, the famous Basin X, and we're still working on that. But, we're on schedule to, complete and live up to the schedule that we agreed to back in April or May. And again, the township has been very cooperative in that, recognizing we've had some significant events this summer that have, caused some minor delay, the storms, the hurricanes, the everything else that you folks have been dealing with as a township, we're dealing with in developing this property, but we're doing the best we can.
And there's money secured. I mean, there are bonds in place for that work, so they won't get released until that work is completed.
Yeah, I'm just going to make the point that the township is aware of what the timelines are. We're staying on top of it.
Oh, they're staying on top of it.
People are particularly concerned about the trails in the park. That's what they really want to be able to see, some movement there, and be able to utilize them.
We've always targeted the trails for next spring, and we're probably by and large on schedule with that, right? There's nothing at this point, that would prevent that from occurring.
Yeah, I mean, there's more to the open space than the trails, and I know that's what you're after. There's 9 bridges that are in the open space. 3 of them were brand new bridges that were fabricated, that were placed or done. There's one large bridge that comes in off of 322. That's pretty much done except for the rails on it at this point in time, but that was the emergency access into North Hills. That is finished. There's 3 other bridges, existing bridges, that are being worked on right now. The large dam is done. It has some erosion from the last hurricane remnants that went through. So we're fixing that. The 4 township parking areas are completely finished. 2 of them have to be top paved at this point in time. Certainly Aram Avenue was done all the way through with the trail, the paved trail that runs through that. So it's not like we're not working on those improvements at all. The solar gates are in. Rick, I have to get you the keys on that. They're finished at this point in time. The bollards are back ordered. I can't get the bollards fabricated, but minor item. But the trail should go pretty quickly. The Drahim family does that at this time when people are walking on those trails. So part of it is the family saying, hey, so the trails themselves, finishing the stone trails themselves, is relatively easy compared to all these other structures that are going in around it. And that should be pretty quickly once we hit them and get Drahim out of the way on some of that.
And it's also, what is the status of the repair or refurbishment of the 3 dams?
One of them is completely done. The other 2 should start either late this year or early next year. Understood we've got weather and concrete, but we've had material supplies and contracting issues with the other 2 dams, but they're the 2 smaller devices. The main flood control dams is finished. The other 2
are really the ponds that just have to pass the water more than, they're not flood control devices. But they have to be worked on, you're right.
No, thank you.
Yep, sure.
Any other questions from the board? No? Okay, questions from the public? Margie?
Hi, gentlemen. I just remember sitting here a couple years ago.
Can we just have you come up so it's
Sure.
all here? Thank you. Margie, can I hold you out there for a second? She kindly reminded me.
Make a motion.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll say it.
Second, motion and second. All right, go ahead,
Very
Margie.
good, thank you.
Hi, Margie Swart. Since you're doing the motion in a second, I'll address that first. Are you just approving the 28 lot phase 3, or included in that, are you also approving the escrow amount and the new agreement?
Well, the escrow amount and the new agreement are part and parcel to what they needed to do before they could have phase 3 plans released for recording. So it can all be in one. I mean, it's not typically something that.
It was my intention with the motion to include all of it.
Okay, has the board seen that agreement with the figures, the escrow figures? So are you approving something that you have actually seen the documents?
I don't know if you're talking about two different documents. The financial security agreement and the land development agreement are form documents that every developer signs. The amount of security that they post is based on a construction cost estimate the developer provides to Rick and Rick approves. So I don't know if the board is familiar with the form documents that every developer signs. So that's what you're talking about when they grant final plan approval as a condition under the state law. Developers are required to execute those land development, financial security agreements, and post the necessary escrows.
Okay, and as a condition of the state law, at least when I read it, and obviously not a lawyer, but it's clear that it must be approved by the board of supervisors.
You're talking about something different. You're talking about releases from escrow. And in West Goshen, they've delegated that authority to the township engineer, who approves, and once everything is inspected, he confirms, or Carroll Engineering, and then Rick reviews and agrees that the work was done or wasn't done, and authorizes the release. There's nothing unlawful about the way that West Goshen handles that.
As a resident, I'm just asking my board maybe to look at that and make sure that you shouldn't, in fact, be approving that. And that's fine if it's recommended from the township engineer and the township attorney, as many things are, but you are the final approval. Because I'm just worried what's going to happen in a couple of years from now when residents come and Mr. Craig's going to say the board approved it, Chris is going to say the board approved it, and the board's going to say we didn't approve anything, it was up to them. So, or just hold Mr. Craig and the township solicitor responsible if things go south in 5 or 6 years, when maybe, perhaps, let's hope that things get done the way they're supposed to. But, and gentlemen, please understand, I moved here 10 years ago, 6 acres, 12 units, and I just feel, and my HOA feels like the township dropped the ball. So I have personal experience, and so I'm just
Thank you for your
comment,
Margie.
All right, one last thing. So I addressed the motion, but I did want to address a number of years. I think Mr. Purnell was the only supervisor on the board at the time. And I understand these things take a while, but I do recall the developer and his representatives standing here, and in order to get that neighborhood improvement district passed, the promise was made that within 18 months all those public improvements would be complete. And the board at the time agreed and passed that neighborhood improvement district so they could get financing, because that was what the promise was, that these improvements would be done in 18 months before any housing construction took place. So I'm just disappointed that I feel like the developers reneged on that promise. Thank you.
Thanks, Margie. Okay, so we have a motion and I'm sorry, are there any other public comments? No, okay, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. All right, item number 5 is ordinance number 13-2021, burning.
So this was presented to you, I believe, at your last meeting. This came as a result of a recommendation from Bill Webb and Andrea Testa. We currently have a very sparse burning ordinance. So this is a new chapter 31 of the township code to address burning regulations. Again, it's really to make sure that your regulations in your code are consistent with the fire code. We did advertise tonight's hearing in the Daily Local on October 11th, and I sent a copy of the ordinance for public inspection to the Daily Local and to the Law Library on October 6th. So happy to answer any questions, but it is to modernize and make your burning regulations consistent with your fire code.
Okay, yes, we talked about this at our last meeting. Does the board have any additional questions?
Yeah, I do. I need a clarification here. On section 31-3, burning prohibited, there are the exemptions there, A, B, C, and D. And the caveat is, burning outdoor, open burning designation shall be exempt from this section when approved by the West Goshen Township Fire Marshal or his or her designee. Are we saying now that for every outdoor fireplace that's out there, for every patio wood burning unit that's out there, and I have one in my backyard, and so forth, they have to be approved prior to use by the fire marshal or his or her designee? I mean, do we have the staff to be able to do that?
That would be a pre-existing condition, and we wouldn't, Andrea would not go back to you and look at yours. She wouldn't come to my house and look at mine.
Okay.
It would be anything new, and she already looks at permits that come in for new fire pits and fireplaces.
So just for clarification, so you're saying that would only apply to new installation?
Correct. Any ordinance that we do would be going forward, never going backwards.
I see.
Anything else? All right, can I have a motion to approve? All right, I'll second. Thank you, Robin. All in favor? I'm sorry. Public comment. No public comment? Okay, thanks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 4-0. All right, item number 6, approval to advertise personal services and chickens ordinance for approval at the December 7th meeting.
So this, again, we talked about this. It's actually also has changes to your educational use section, which was necessary because of your adoption of the PUC ordinance. So these are for housekeeping cleanup sections of the ordinance. Personal service, Bill wanted, remind me, Bill, that your C4 district.
So the C4 district allows photo studios, but photo studios is a personal service, but doesn't allow personal services. So we're removing photo studios, and then we're putting personal services in that zoning district, and then we're adding pet grooming to be a personal service.
And then we're changing the educational use section 84-57.10. We've taken out references to university uses because those are covered through your PUC and allowed in your PUC district. And then section 4, because we, in a prior amendment that you adopted this year, you identified what through lots are, but we never addressed whether you're allowed to have domesticated chickens on through lots. So this really is sort of a myriad of different zoning amendments that are cleanup.
The personal services.
Right. So all we did, after your last meeting, you authorized us to get this off to the county planning, so we did send this to the county planning. We need to wait 30 days. Your planning commission can look at it at your November meeting. So I think we're looking at your December workshop. Is that what you're looking for?
The pet groomer was static. We took their business into consideration and moved so quickly. They were very appreciative. They said they're going to come to the December meeting when it's approved to thank you.
Okay.
But I believe under the proposed ordinance doctrine, Kristen, once this is advertised, they can move forward?
Under the pending ordinance doctrine, if all they need is a zoning permit upon intent to publish and then the first publication, she can treat it as if the ordinance had been enacted. Obviously, we have to confirm that the ordinance does get enacted, but yes, she's allowed to do that on the pending ordinance.
All right, so, do you want to say something?
Just to authorize us to advertise, I guess, for the December work session.
You want to make that motion here? All right.
I'll second.
Second by John. Public comment. Anybody like to make a comment on this approval? Yes, Doug.
Okay, this is only to approve the advertising and not the actual.
That's
Right.
right. That's right. So you'll get it at your planning commission meeting and be able to give us comments, and to the extent you have changes, we can incorporate those and maybe push that date back if we need to. So we'll wait and see what happens.
All right. We'll take the vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? 0. 4-0. Thank you. Item number 7 is the 2021 pension plan state aid allocation and payment approval. Turn it over to Casey.
Yeah, this is our annual housekeeping with the state aid that the township receives from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for assistance in funding the 3 township pension plans. Upon receipt of the state aid proceeds from the Commonwealth, the township is required to deposit the funds into our pension plan currently with Vanguard within 30 days of receipt. The township received the state aid funding on September 29th, so the township needs to deposit the proceeds by October 29th. In order to do that in a timely fashion, I'm requesting the board approve the payment to Vanguard at tonight's meeting. The state aid received per pension plan is as follows. The state aid received for the police plan is $197,763.37. The administrative and roads plan, $254,030.94. And the sewer plan, $114,285.02.
Okay, thanks, Casey. And these allocations, it says were approved in December of 2020.
Correct, as part of the budget adoption.
As part of the budget, okay. All right, so does anybody on the board have any questions or comments about the allocations?
I'll make the motion to approve this policy.
Okay. A few seconds. Would anybody like to make a public comment? Margie?
I would just like to thank the township manager or the finance director or the board, whoever asked for this document, be put in the documents. Thank you. I've never seen this document before, and it's just very transparent and it's very easy to read, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Casey, is this on the website as well? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, the whole packet's published, so.
Great. All right, if there's no more public comment, we will take a vote to approve the pensions plan state allocation and payment. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Can I just confirm something, verify? Did you also say that you're also approving the township's portion to be paid? I see was paid October 6th. What was that? So you're not just looking at the...
This is strictly just the state aid. We have to act, the board has to act within 30 days of receipt.
Okay, so
the non-state aid funding is in the budget. We do that as we have to in the budget. They do not have to approve that payment directly. The state aid is required by law that they approve the deposit of those monies into our pension plan.
okay, so
That's what they're approving.
Okay, so that 1.194 was approved as part of the budget.
Part of the budget for 21, that's in the budget, ready to go. And this has to be approved by the board separately.
Right. Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Sure.
All right, so item number 8 is Resolution 17-2021, small wireless facilities.
So in 2020, in June of 2020, you adopted an ordinance to regulate small wireless facilities. You pulled them out of your zoning and you're adopting them. You adopted an ordinance because there was state law and federal law that really sort of treats these differently than your zoning ordinance would treat them. When you did that, you also adopted a resolution to adopt design guidelines so that to the extent that somebody wants to come in and put in a small wireless facility, you would have design guidelines for how they were supposed to look and where they were supposed to be located. Since you adopted that, there has been a FCC decision in terms of, and also a state law that was passed that gives you additional control about aesthetics and allows you, as part of that, one of the things that we did not have in the original design guidelines was that in neighborhoods where all of the utilities are located underground, you can say you can't have an above ground small wireless facility. You do still have to have a waiver process where the applicant can come in and have a hearing to be able to prove to you or show you why it's necessary for to have it above ground if everything else is underground. But we wanted your design guidelines to reflect that change that occurred in the law. So there's just, all we're doing is basically re-adopting the design guidelines that you had adopted in 2020, but inserting that change that you can require and mandate in neighborhoods where all the utilities are underground, that those small wireless facilities are not allowed. Again, but there is this exception that they can come in and request a hearing before the board and demonstrate to you what their hardship is as to why they need, absolutely, in order to fill gaps in coverage or whatnot, that they need it to be above ground. So, and in that circumstance, they'd have to prove to you that the property owner on whose property that they're placing the above ground facility consents to it being placed in that location. So it's just a minor change to what you had already adopted in May of 2020 based on changes in the law.
So I just have a quick question. So does that mean that neighborhoods that have their wireless or that have their things above ground, this does not apply?
No, but there's still language in your design guidelines that would encourage them to go on existing structures already, to not build a new pole.
Encouraged, but not.
You cannot absolutely 100% prohibit.
Right.
And our experience has been that these companies are willing to work with you. They don't want to fight with you. They want to try to, and there are so many opportunities, and technology is evolving. They can put them on traffic poles, they can put them on steep structures. So we've not, in the instances where we've been dealing with these companies, we've not run into roadblocks where we've had fights. We've given them some suggestions for other locations where they can be co-located, and they've been willing to work with us on those co-locations. So.
Okay.
I can't say that there wouldn't be an instance where they would not be able to find an existing structure or an existing pole that suits their needs as far as coverage. But I think the way West Goshen is built out, I would think that would not, we don't see that happening.
Okay.
And also, just to point out here, part of the change we're making here tonight is that a waiver to put a support structure would only be granted if the property owner approves such a waiver. So it's not like we're creating an eminent domain situation here where we're going to come in and demand that the property owner gives up the space in front of their house so they can have a support structure. We're not saying, we're saying you have a right, the company has a right to ask for it, doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you got to prove your case and the property owner has to say okay.
Right.
Okay, so are we approving?
You're approving the resolution, which adopts the revised guideline. The only change to the guidelines is on page 6 in paragraph 2.
Okay.
Right there.
Right.
That's the only section.
Okay. All right, so would somebody like to make a motion then to approve resolution number 17-721? You made the motion and Robin seconds. All right, would anybody like to make public comment? Hearing none. I will take a vote then. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? None. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
You're going for first.
Am I?
7:40.
All right, here we go. Item number 9, Beyond Hello conditional use order.
So this conditional use hearing was held, what's our date here? Yeah, October 5th, excuse me. Franklin Bioscience Penn LLC, doing business as Beyond Hello, filed a conditional use application on August 24th, requesting the board to modify condition number 5 of the conditional use decision and order, which was dated March 19, 2019, which approved medical marijuana dispensary at an existing bank building at 1261 Westchester Pike. Condition number 5 had originally restricted vehicles from using the drive-through lane that had been built for the bank. It limited traffic traveling in that drive-through lane to delivery vehicles. At the hearing, the applicant explained that COVID and the change in the state law allows them to deliver their product through delivery to the vehicles, and as a result of that, they are requesting you to change that particular condition. I drafted a draft decision for your consideration that would approve the modification to condition number 5 and would impose specific conditions. They are permitted to add approximately 1,600 square feet of additional pavement in the area that was shaded in light gray on the plan that they presented at the hearing. They're able to install a second drive-through lane, again, in the general location depicted on the plan presented at the hearing. They will add additional landscaping on the property near the intersection of Westchester Pike and Ellis Lane. And actually, they have gone so far as to provide a landscaping plan. Rick has reviewed it and found it to be acceptable. And I have that with me. It proposes, my eyes are not great, but let's see. Gina's here.
It's actually
Let me see if I can read
it's
this
right
on.
up on the screen right now.
Yeah, 6 green luster hollies and 4 red maples. So Rick has found this to be acceptable. That's, I think that was some of the board's thoughts, like you're going to be adding additional impervious because you make it a little bit more beautiful. So that's actually one of the conditions. And then the last condition, 2 other conditions, excuse me. Applicant shall clearly demarcate the drive-through lanes and circulation pattern around the parking lot and building with line striping and signage to be approved by the township engineer. And then the final one is they must develop and implement a safety protocol for their employees who deliver products to the customers who are stacked in the drive-through lanes. There was concern about, they were mentioning their employees coming and delivering, and there's 2 lanes of traffic. So I think the board had some issues and concerns about that. We're putting it back on them to develop what that safety protocol is, and that's something that's going to have to be reviewed and approved by the township engineer. So those are the 4 proposed conditions. Happy to answer any questions. I did have staff input on this, so thank you. I did circulate it to the applicant's engineer or applicant's counsel in case they had any issues or concerns or questions, and I didn't hear any. So
that's correct.
Yes.
Everything is good with the client at this point. They've reviewed the conditions. They're comfortable with the conditions that have been drafted and being able to comply with those conditions.
I'm glad to see that they already came up with a plan for the landscaping. That's really great.
They're very
Fast.
proactive.
Yeah.
They're very proactive.
So I just do have a question. So just to clarify, Rick, you are going to oversee their plan for the safety protocols. They're going to develop that and then talk with you. And you're gonna, okay. All right. Does the board have any questions?
Yeah, what were those trees again that are going to be planted there?
I'm going to defer to Christian because I think she has it right
Yeah,
now.
here, you pass that down.
They said maples.
Maples and
Red
holly.
maples and hollies.
I mean, is this really just for beautification, or is this really?
Yeah,
is
it's
this gonna
beautification.
It's not going to offset any of the additional impervious surface?
Well, it's not a direct storm
I mean,
control
right.
aspect. But since they lost that big tree to that storm 3 years ago, it's kind of a bare corner now, so it doesn't press
Right,
it up
but it's
very nice.
something nice to look at, okay. All right,
I'll make a motion to
yeah, thank you.
accept this conditional use order.
All right, thank you. And public comment? Anybody like to make a public comment? Doug?
Should I come up?
Sure.
Good evening, Doug White, West Goshen. May I ask a question about the sign, the main sign? I know that's not, they can't.
It's not part of this application, so. But go ahead.
What's the question?
Well, when they came to the planning commission originally, I asked about the sign copy, the wording of the main sign, and they told me that it would be discreet, and it has since changed to say it's a medical marijuana dispensary. I personally don't consider that discreet. Is there any,
Well,
is that allowed?
My recollection from the state law, they were not allowed to post any marijuana leaf. Like out in California, it's a big green leaf that's lit up with neon. Here, that's very discreet. But as for what it says, I don't know it's prohibited.
It's not prohibited.
It's not.
Yeah, I was going to say that when they talked about us in the beginning about why it was called Beyond Hello, was because it was supposed to attract people who would safely be able to go into a dispensary, and was also wanting to make sure that it wasn't going to get other people driving by thinking they could just go in, because it's of the parameters that they have in order to be able to dispense the dispensary that they need to for the thing. And since I live very close to, and John does too, very often do I see so many people going in there. And I think it's really great that they have gotten to that point where so many people can be, being provided this type of medication for them. So that they did that purposely so that people didn't see it as a dispensary.
But now it does say, you're saying it was changed and now it's.
It just said beyond hello, and that was it.
And
Now it says medical marijuana dispensary on the sign. I would just have concern about kids seeing that and, I mean.
Well, so is it prohibited?
No, so the condition in the original order says, if applicant installs any signs to advertise the name, such signs shall comply with the act and the zoning ordinance. So there's nothing in the act that prohibits.
That prohibits that, actually, okay, thank you.
For the record, they obtained permits when they replaced all of their signage, so they were in compliance.
Okay.
So can I just ask you a question? Where is it now on the dispensary? Is it below the sign for beyond? I don't know where that lettering appears. Is it?
It's at the very bottom of the main sign
So
on
it's
the
still
street.
smaller
And it's
set.
very small.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
It doesn't jump out at you.
Right. Okay. Good question, Doug. Thank you.
All right, so are we ready to take a vote then? All in favor? Please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No? All right, motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow, we're to item number 10. Look at that. Monthly reports by Chief Carroll.
Thank you. So the report for the police department for the month of September 2021, we responded to 2,190 calls for service. 71 of those were alarms, one of which was a valve alarm. We responded to 59 accidents, 20 of those accidents were reportable, and we drove a total of 20,713 miles. We've concentrated our traffic enforcement on Delaney Place, South New Street Boot Road, North Five Points Road, Westchester Pike, Kirkland Avenue, Montgomery Avenue, Norfolk Avenue, and Taylor's Mill Road. And among our career development training opportunities in September were our normal Lexipol daily training bulletins, our PA virtual training, which was the required state updates. Our emergency response team did their mandatory monthly trainings. All of the department that was up for CPR first aid training, which is a biannual requirement, completed their CPR first aid training. Sergeant Greiser attended his command and leadership college. Captain Dominio, Lieutenant Cotter, and Sergeant Greiser also attended FBI LEADA training, which is a leadership training. We completed approximately half of the department completed their fall range training in September. About a third of the department is working on their EVOC training this year. That's something we require every 3 years. Sergeant Grandizio, Officer Ash, and Walsh completed their A-RIDE training, which is a DUI enforcement training. Detective Cuddy and Detective Edwards attended homicide investigation course put on by the state police. Officer Kennett and McGee completed their CIT training, and Officer Boyle, as part of his ART training, completed his monthly sniper training. That is the report from the police department. I'll certainly take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from the board for Chief Carroll?
I think it was maybe 2017 at the awards presentation. At the time, the chief police, of course, they presented to one of the officers. I don't recall his name, but he administered the anti-opiate antidote, the
Narcan.
So like 8 or 9 people. It was quite amazing, quite frankly. Are you still experiencing that kind of those kind of calls out there?
Yes, they're pretty steady in those types of calls. They're steady enough that initially when we got Narcan and officers used it to save somebody, they got an award. It's become so commonplace that we don't even award that behavior anymore. Wow. It's just expected.
So all the officers are trained in the use and they carry it with them?
Yes.
Okay. Still sober.
I just want to acknowledge what a great job the department did with the trunk retreat that was last weekend. So it was a huge hit. It was really well done. Well done.
When are you going to let the adults go?
Yeah, right. You're welcome. It was well attended by young adults.
I think the Winnett family had like a Ghostbusters, right? With the Pinto family, I think.
Yep.
That was really great. All right. That's all. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public?
Just one other comment. The West Goshen Township Police Department Traffic Committee will be meeting on Thursday, is that correct?
That's correct.
At 7 p.m. I believe it's here. Yep. Is it there in this room or is it? Okay.
Okay. All right, item number 11 is Board of Supervisors announcements. John, do you have any announcements tonight?
Just a couple. I attended a stormwater conference conducted by PSATs earlier this month. Very informative about all the options out there on stormwater. And also I had the opportunity to attend the Goshen Fire Company Awards banquet on the 15th, and you were there as well. And also there was a veterans event here at the West Goshen Township on October the 7th, and it was very successful. We had 35 vets from the community coming in to use the services that were made available here, namely the recording services of the Recorder Office of Deeds of Chester County. And also there was representatives there from Christy Houlihan's office, from the federal department, from the feds, and also Senator King from Harrisburg, from the state level. In fact, they were very appropriate for them to be there, quite frankly, because there were a couple vets that came in who did not have their discharge papers, so they were able to go right over to see Christy Houlihan's representative who was there and be able to fill out the paperwork to get those forms to them. So it was a very successful event, and hopefully we can have more in the future. There was a follow-up to this. There's going to be a Veterans Benefit breakfast on November the 12th, and that's going to be held in Exton at the Laborers Training Center. And there'll be the same folks who were here will be there as well. Will be there also, as well as additional. It'll be almost like a job fair as well for returning veterans. So that completes my announcements.
All right, thanks, John. Anybody else from the board have an announcement?
As John noted, I attended the awards banquet at the Goshen Fire Company also, and also the PSAT's business meeting in Hershey, which was a working business meeting, and it really was. It was arrived Thursday afternoon, 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday, until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We were doing nothing but reviewing proposals and stuff. So it was enlightening and was good for the townships.
Thank you for being here, Hugh.
Yep. So I want to make sure everyone is aware that on September 24th, which is October 24th, yeah, that is going to be our Harvest Festival. I'm just promoting the Historical Commission as well as the Parks and Recreation. I'm helping them put tables out so that people can come and find out what they do. In particular, I'm hoping that the kids will be able to enjoy these coloring books that basically tell some stories about historical homes in our area. So yeah, we're also going to make sure that each of those tables has the pumpkins on them, because there was some consternation that the kids would just get the pumpkin and go get the candy. Yeah. So we're putting the pumpkins on the table to make sure they show up.
Okay, thanks, Robin. I only have one announcement. The Sustainability Advisory Committee has been working very diligently regarding this proposed plastic bag ban ordinance. And so members from the committee and myself and Chris are going to be meeting with the Chamber of Commerce tomorrow to begin discussions with businesses, to make sure that we have a dialogue going on, learn from them, what we can do to make this transition happen. So we're looking forward to that. All right, moving on to number 12, Township Manager's announcements.
Certainly. I have a few announcements tonight. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just to go back to what Robin was saying, the Harvest Festival is this Saturday, October 24th in Community Park from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Lots of family fun, pumpkins, hot cider, hot chocolate, lots of candy, a good time. Moon bounce, the whole thing. Second announcement, we've had to do some significant maintenance at the dog park. The gazebo is now 16 years old, and the metal support structures, just think of metal and dogs, don't mix, and they have rusted away. So our streets department is up there fashioning brand new supports for the gazebo structure. So the dog park will be closed tomorrow through Friday from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we can still get the afternoon people coming home from work to walk their dogs, but it will be closed from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow through Friday. We have started to take, not informally, I don't mean that, online payments with Munis for sewer trash. Munis ran into a couple of very minor technical issues, so they're straightening those out, but you can still go online and make online payment for your sewer trash bill, but we're not promoting it yet because we don't want a flood of payments coming through until Munis fixes their couple of glitches on their side. But we should have that straightened out in a couple of days. We'll push it out on social media and website as soon as those are corrected within the next couple of days, week. So we'll be, the payments that have come through have come in perfectly. And what's the best thing about it, as soon as you make a payment online, it posts to your account the minute you hit the button. So people can pay right up until the last minute, the last day, and they're paying it post. So it's working correctly that way. It's just the payment side. We have a little glitch with Munis. We also, with our new contract with Republic, we are starting the trash toter switch out November 8th. The company doing the switch out will follow behind Republic trucks. As soon as they empty the trash toter, starting November 8th, the company will then switch out for the new toter. And all the toters will be recycled. They're a very high quality plastic, so that will be, all the toters will be recycled 100%. We're mailing postcards at the end of this week with start printing to all trash customers in the township, and we're also pushing it out. We've already sent messages by social media, website. We'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks as well, just to remind people that your trash toter is going to change color starting November 8th.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, sure.
You were talking, last time we talked about this, that you could repurpose them into rain barrels?
It's a logistical nightmare.
It is.
Okay, checking to make sure if that was going to still happen.
Yeah, I mean, we have some here if somebody would want one, once we're done, if we have a few, they're more than welcome to them.
Yeah, we just couldn't plan correctly for that, so to do it on the large scale, this wasn't going to work. Yeah, it just wasn't going to work.
So can I ask a question?
Of course.
So people are going to put their trash totes out on the curb. Republic's going to come through.
Right.
They're going to collect the old trash tote, and there's going to be another vehicle following them that puts the new one.
Well, they're going to actually, starting the week of the 8th, everybody's going to get a new toter with the township toter. Once your township toter gets dumped and you get the new toter, don't reuse the township toter, and they're going to keep coming through and collecting the township toters.
Yeah, it's going to take about 3 weeks to go through that
So
process.
they once you get your new toter, start using that, leave your old toter at the curbside.
But they also said that we could use them for yard waste.
Again, it's a logistical nightmare because so many people, you know, one or two is going to want it and not the other, so.
So just leave the toter out.
Yeah, we collect about 6,500 single-family homes, and just that scale of trying to see who wants it and who doesn't, which is what it's been on.
I mean, we have crews coming in from Ohio and Kentucky, and they don't know the township. We can't give them a list of addresses. It would, logistically, it wouldn't work.
All right.
The toters, the new ones, are they going to be the same cubic foot size?
Yeah, same size.
Same exact size. No reduction in service at all.
What happens if somebody wants to hold on to their old one? I mean, you're going to come and grab them anyway?
We're still going to take it.
I don't know anything if it disappears.
We're not going to.
Aren't you in a stage in your life where you're purging all that stuff?
I mean, somebody might want to have two of them.
Now we would.
Well, no, because they'll only fill the trash up out of the public toter.
Right.
But if you want to keep it for storage or something, you could. There's nothing you're going to do, right? I mean, yeah.
Right.
If you want to put old books or something in it, then you keep it in your garage.
With the gunk that's inside.
You're going to have that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Public comment. Doug, did you?
And I think John answered my question, so we could keep the old one if we want.
If they disappear, but you cannot use it for trash.
And also,
We only pick up one recycle, or one toter per house.
you'll never pick it up again either.
No,
So then
we
if in
will
the
not get
future
rid
you
of
want to
that
get
for
rid of
you.
it, that's on you.
Yeah, if you call us in
Right.
here and say, hey,
Yeah.
no, that's on you now, so.
I can see that.
So you can't put that out for like a big trash pickup?
No.
No. Okay.
And then I just have one last one. The Boot Road restriping project is well underway. We're almost done.
Should be getting striped tomorrow.
Good. I drove it twice today.
Yeah, paving finished today.
The paving is just phenomenal.
Beautiful.
It's brand new, and it'll be striped tomorrow. So that project will essentially be 99% complete tomorrow. We've been working on it since 2008, so.
Yeah, the only thing
to
left,
get it done.
the only thing left, signal improvements.
Yes, yeah, we have the left turn signal arrow improvements to be installed by, I think, Lenai Electric's doing that work.
Yeah, it's all part of the contract.
And it's part of the contract, so
What is
that,
that, and what is that?
Electronics.
yeah, it's parts, that's the problem. That's the problem, but very soon.
Can I ask about the turn lanes on Phoenix to Pike into Green? How long of a process is that?
They're getting widened as we speak.
Okay.
There's-
Is that like a month long or?
Yeah, they want to be done by the end of October.
Yeah,
Okay.
they need to finish it by the end of October.
Good, so that's gonna be a nice improvement.
Good.
Good, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Casey. Item number 13, Township Engineer Stormwater Announcements and Woodlands at Greystone Updates.
As John mentioned, I also attended the PSAT Stormwater Workshop held on September 22nd for the technical track. Again, there was some very good information presented there on a variety of topics. And last week on Tuesday, Chris Bayshore and I attended the Villanova Municipal Stormwater Workshop. It was only one day this year instead of the 3 that was planned. They're going to do the other 2 in the springtime. But there were 2 emphases on that workshop. One was how to deal with the extreme storms that we're having with climate change, and the other was municipal implementation of maintenance operations, which is a continuing problem. As far as Greystone, pretty much same old, same old. They're building a lot of houses, not a lot of infrastructure at this point, and it's going to continue for the next few years.
Any questions for Rick from the board?
Rick, is the point about the NID and that 18-month thing, I'm not sure if that was actually in writing. I think they just had to have a plan to do that work with the intent of getting it done within a reasonable time, but I don't think it precluded home building.
No, I don't believe it did.
So the intent was to do their best to get it done within and have a plan, but of course with everything that happened last year, and it's understandable with the photos.
Well, and again, the NID is a separate entity with a separate body that governs it, and it's not under the township's strict purview, so.
Right.
It's not?
No, it's not. The township does not run the NID. We have representation on the board, but we do not run it in any respect whatsoever.
But does it fall under the right to know request?
I don't know. You'd have to check with Casey. I don't know.
Does the NID fall under the right to know request?
I don't think so.
It's a body created.
Private organization.
I don't think it's a local agency.
It's not considered a board.
Okay. Any other questions for Rick? Hearing none. All right, we'll move on. Number 14, zoning officers announcements.
Thank you very much. The zoning hearing board met last week, and they heard the case for 838 South High Street, which was a 6-foot-high fence in the front yard, which was a corner lot. The zoning hearing board did approve that request. The fence was already installed. They hired Lowe's. Lowe's put it up without talking to anybody, but the fence is up. The people are very happy, and the neighbors actually came out and supported the application. The one neighbor is a state trooper, and they appreciate the fence because it hides their state police car. The zoning hearing board will meet again on November 10th to hear 890 Justin Lane. It is a single-family dwelling. They have extreme hardship because a lot of their property is floodplain. So they are doing an addition, or is it a deck?
It's an
It is an addition. And they have to encroach into that floodplain, and the only way they can do that is by seeking a variance with the zoning hearing board. We do have provisions in our code for that. Rick will be attending that meeting, so he gets to be here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that week. But I would ask the board whether you would like to take a position on that application. It would be my recommendation that we do not, these folks do meet the criteria for a hardship. Their property is surrounded by a wetland.
I'm familiar with the property.
Just to clarify too, the addition is going to be cantilevered from the existing house. Well, actually, it's not surely cantilevered. It's only going to be the second story, so the first story will be empty air. So you're going to have columns supporting the addition. So it will be an encroachment into the floodplain, but the building will not encroach into the floodplain.
Just the columns.
Just the columns and possibly the foundation. I haven't seen any details yet for whether the foundation is completely buried or partially exposed, but the columns and maybe a small portion of the foundation would be in the floodplain, but the building addition will not. It will be well above the base flood elevation.
Is it a minor encroachment, or is it a significant?
Again, I haven't seen the details, but I can't imagine that it would be more than a minor encroachment. Our concern with being at the hearing is more to make sure that the flood proofing of the foundation and the columns are adequate. In other words, they can't use timber, they're going to have to use steel. Going to need to be a concrete buried foundation, just to make sure that it's flood resistant.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no concern.
So do you want the board to authorize you to participate and suggest conditions on their behalf? It seems like you may want to do that if you don't have all the information yet to be able to, because normally if the board wants to be a party, you want them to have been authorized to be there. I know they can be a party in a zoning hearing, but specifically if there are things that you attending the hearing feel should be imposed as conditions, we can advocate that. That may not be a bad idea for the board to make that motion to authorize you to go ahead and do that on their behalf.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, does somebody want to make the motion then? Okay, he was going to make the motion to do exactly that. Anyone want a second? Robin?
Yep.
All right. Public comment on that motion? None? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None? Okay.
Thank you.
Say aye.
I have nothing.
All right. Thank you. Okay, what are we on? Number 15? All right, number 15 is approval of Township Board of Supervisors meeting minutes of September 21st, 2021 and October 5th, 2021. All right, Hugh has motioned for approval.
Well, I'd like to make an amendment here. On the October 5th minutes on page 4, we could add a line there. At the very end, it's the second paragraph from the end, where Mr. Hellman stated the decision to replace a vehicle, combination of age and mileage. Mr. Hellman reviewed the vehicles outlined for replacement. I'm requesting to add following discussion with the chief beforehand. There will be one Telsa all-electric vehicle for administration and 2 police interceptors for patrol vehicles to be budgeted for 2022.
Would you be able to email that to me?
Okay.
Would you be able to
Sure.
email that to me?
Okay, any others?
I'll amend my motion to approve it.
With John's edits, okay.
And I'll second the motion.
Seconded by John.
You did all right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Ron seconded.
Up to Ron to agree to this thing.
Okay. Are there any public comment? Hearing none? All right, we'll take the vote then. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 4-0. And number 16, approval of the treasurer's report dated September 30th, 2021 for the general fund, the sewer fund, the waste and recycling fund, the sewer revenue fund, the waste and recycling fund, and the capital reserve fund, and bills to be paid from these funds. Hughes made the motion.
I will second.
Robin seconded. Any public comments?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Maybe.
Margie, do you want to come up to the microphone?
Sure.
It's more directed, I guess, towards Christine, or maybe Casey can answer them. There's the 2.4, let's just call it $2.4 million transfer from the general fund to the capital reserve fund, which I know was in the budget. But when I read the second class township code, it says that when you create a capital reserve fund and you transfer those funds, like that $2.4 million must have a specific use. So do we have like specific expenditures for that $2.4 million?
That's tied directly off the 10-year capital plan, which was approved last year as well.
Okay, so that's all I'm trying to just confirm, because in years past, sometimes it wasn't real clear. Sometimes we paid for capital expenditures out of the general fund and sometimes the capital reserve fund. So is it still that way?
The adopted 10-year plan called for specific amount to be transferred.
Okay.
Based on the approved 10-year capital plan, so that money is being moved.
Okay. And then when I'm also looking at the capital reserve, it shows like manuals on page 2 of the capital reserve, $271,000. So you're saying those are all for capital expenditures, not like legal fees or professional fees?
Capital project or capital equipment.
Okay. Is the Citizen, the financial, the transparency website up yet and working?
Munis, that's completely on Munis, and we ask them every week. They're still working on it. There is something wrong with their software, and we do not have access to it, so
okay.
We ask them every week, and they're working on it.
Are they giving us a credit of some sort? Because that's been down for a couple months now. Like we pay quite a bit of money for that, right?
We'll ask for a credit, absolutely.
Okay. And then one last thing. I saw like a $400 Class A license test. Did we hire one of our retired employees?
We did.
Okay, and just curious, what role?
Streets labor driver.
Okay.
And they're required after 6 months to get CDLA as part of their employment, so.
Okay, so we don't have any policy after, especially after we adopted this drop program and.
We do not have a policy about rehiring.
Okay. Perhaps going forward, would it be more beneficial to maybe hire those retirees if we're going to do that on a part-time basis? So I thought the whole purpose. Why don't we hire part-time employees?
We don't hire part-time employees.
Is that something maybe the board could discuss? I think that might save the taxpayers some money, possibly for any position. Look at part-time employees. I know many municipalities surrounding us hire part-time employees, and I think that could be a cost savings to the citizens.
I think it's a good suggestion,
Okay.
Wendy. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any other public comments? Well, wait a second, we have to approve the treasurer's report. So we'll take a vote. All in favor to approve the treasurer's report and the bills to be paid, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 4-0. And now we will open it up for public comment. Is there anything else that, yes?
I just have a quick question for Rick. One of the structures over at the Goshen Walk on 5 Points, I'm assuming it meets a setback that's 30 feet. I guess that building is right at the 30 foot.
It's not 30 feet.
It meets the setback requirements, yes.
Okay, it just.
But those setback requirements are not the same as the R3, they're smaller.
Yep.
So if I recall off the top of my head, which it's 20 feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right, it's close, but that's what it is.
Thanks, Doug. Yes, Marty.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I thought, or I thought I'd share that I read a municipality somewhere, it might not have even been in Pennsylvania, but what they do with their, say, we had a couple police vehicles specifically that were maybe 2016, 2017 that we're going to retire or trade in. And then when I looked at the inventory, I saw we still have a couple pool cars that are maybe, I'm guessing, 2006, 2011. But what they do with maybe the newer cars with not a whole lot of mileage is get rid of those older pool cars and then just recycle or upcycle, whatever you want to call those newer vehicles instead of just getting rid of newer ones but holding on to the long ones. So.
Chief, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we get rid of the worst vehicles and keep the best ones.
No, and I'm not even just for your department. I mean, we have pool cars in administration. I think I saw on the inventory list, we have a couple Ford Escape hybrids maybe.
We have one 2014 that is way past its life expectancy.
But we're holding on to that.
The other thing too, with patrol vehicles, you have to put all the hardware back in the back doors.
Yep.
seats in them, change a bunch of other equipment around. By the time you do that on a vehicle of that age, you're already.
They're spending thousands and
Right,
thousands.
but,
Yeah.
right, but Margie, are you suggesting that non-police vehicles that would need to go through retrofitting, but just used throughout the township, you would take some of the newer vehicles to replace the really old vehicles?
Right,
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just a cost savings idea, just something
I
we can
appreciate
look at.
it, yeah,
Okay,
we'll look at it.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, I think that's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Now we have a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Okay, anybody want to second that?
I'm going to second.
All right, thanks, Robin. All in favor? Aye.
And I want to congratulate you for wanting such
Yeah,
a
way
quick
to go. Actually,
permanent
that's
meeting.
amazing.
Good job. Sean's going to get up and he finds out what you just did today.
Yeah.
Or we're going to be happy. He was flying way too fast.
Very good.
Really great. Thank you.
Good job.